Did you incorporate a business last year and are you wondering how do I file my corporate income tax return? If you are, this video is perfect for you. We're going to go over what is a T2 corporate income tax return and how you file it using UFile as the tax software. You've just created your UFile account. This will be the home page. All right. And it's a little bit tricky. You start off with the UFile T1. We click onto the UFile T2. Okay. This is for businesses that are incorporated. Remember, if you are a sole proprietor, you do not file it this way. This is for incorporated businesses only, whether small, medium-sized, or large. You would do it this way if you're filing your own tax return. Many of you will have a calendar tax year that is January 1st to December 31st. And if you're doing it right now, it's April of 2026, then you are going to file the 2025 tax year end. So we create example number 1. And you'll launch it. You'll start on the new tax file. And this is how it looks like. Okay, so you're going to have your identification, who is preparing it. You wish to e-file your tax return, obviously yes. Head of the office address, other addresses, bunch of information, okay? So the beginning part is just your identification, your corporation's name, your corporation's tax year end. Does the corporation qualify for a 1-month extension? Probably not. Jurisdiction of the charter and incorporation date. Here you're going to need to know where you incorporated. You're going to need your corporation's business number. Is this the first federal return? Is it the last one? You just have to go through these and answer them. Very straightforward. If you're a corporation, if you're filing for the first year, then you might have some difficulty with maybe having the corporation business number, but you need your incorporation documents, okay, to know where it was and the number as well, the incorporation number. You'll have who is preparing this, so you would put your name in here. E-file setup, you'll say yes if eligible. So you don't have to worry about this whack code, okay, at all. You don't need that. Don't worry about this at all. You can file without that. And then you put in your head office address. This is generally, if you have a rental space, then you would input that address. If you are working from home, then you would just input your home address, okay? But you must have an address here on file. Corporate officer, all of these things have to be inputted. Very straightforward. Again, just a lot of information here about the person. Remember, you want to answer the ones that are starred only. That means that you must. Anything else you don't need to. So as a rule of thumb, yeah, just if you see a star there, then you will need to answer it. If you don't see a star, just skip over it. Unless you want to go through answering all of these questions yourself. Up to you, okay? Now you have your Giphy file to import. So if you used Caseware or Simple Accounting, it can be imported into UFile T2. So every tax return that you do for a corporation must have your accounting statements, financial statements. So you have to have your balance sheet, your income statement, shareholders' equity, all of that has to be there. And the Giphy is essentially just your accounts that you have in the year that are on your financial statements. So you may or may not have this depending on if you used a third party. If you've just did it in Excel, then you would have to input this individually, okay? So on your balance sheet, you would have to go in and input all these numbers. If you just created it, then likely you would have 100 here for cash, and on shareholders equity you would have common shares of 100, and that would be it, okay? But again, you have to go in and input all of these based on your financial statements, which of course you should have, right? If you're filing your tax return, that means that the year has ended for the year that you're filing for, so you must have that information. You'll also have your income statement here. None of this, this is not confusing. Don't be worried too much about these names. You just need to make sure that you input all the information related to revenue, and you'll try your best to inputting it in the correct box, but it's not super important. For most of these, of course, some of these, there are tax implications. So meals and entertainment only taxed at 50%. You must look at this and go through it in your best ability, but don't be too worried about that, okay? Don't worry so much about the names. Just make sure you have you've inputted everything correctly so that your net income at the end of the day is correct, and make sure you try your best for that. But some of these accounts have, differences between accounting and tax, which you will have to know about. But again, you're trying your best here to do it yourself. So we continue. You'll have this note checklist. Whether you can identify a person primarily involved with the financial information. So if you're like the business owner, you should have the financial information. You would say yes. And you'll just go through on to the next one. Net income here should be a summary of your financial statements. You would just input that there. Tax on capital, okay. None of this is important. If you had charitable donations, you will need to do that. Okay, you will need to do that because you'll get a deduction for that. You won't get a credit, but you'll get a deduction for that. Here you'll find your non-depreciable capital property, okay, income source, okay, dividends paid. So you just have to go through all of these things and input it. Most of these will not be applicable, but if you did pay dividends, you'll need to state, what kind of dividends you paid. Again, a lot of these will not be applicable to you. If you had depreciation, anything that you're taking depreciation on, you'll need to input the classes. Again, depending on your business, if you're a small business, you might only have one class here, but you'll be able to know on your financial statements whether you have any capital assets that you'll take CCA on. Okay, so depreciation for accounting, CCA for tax. Okay, and then loss carry forwards and carry backs, depending on if you have any capital losses, non-capital losses from prior years, you can carry it forward in this year. If you had a loss this year and you had income in the prior years, you can carry it back. Okay. And essentially that's, you just go through here, you'll input all of this, and then you would go into your review stage. Okay. In your review stage, you'll find a bunch of errors that will need to be fixed, and it'll tell you exactly what these errors are. And you'll have to make sure you go through every single error to be able to essentially file this return. Without going through the errors, you won't be able to file. Once it's done, you can click your tax return and you'll be able to get the tax return here as a preview, but you won't be able to file it until you actually pay. Okay, so I'm not sure how much the amount is, usually between $200 to $300 for one T2 corporate tax return. Again, if you get an accountant to do it, generally they're about $2,000. So you can save yourself a lot of money by doing it yourself, but the complexity is based on your business, right? So if you had just created your business, you can totally do this because there's not a lot of these will be applicable. Pretty much nothing here will be applicable to you. You'll only need to do the balance sheet of 100 for cash, 100 for your shareholders' equity. If you are a business that, you have millions of dollars, you have reserves, you have all these different tax implications, interest, maybe you have a lease, then it would be better for you to not do it by yourself and to have an accountant do it for you. But again, I'm going to go under the impression that you are a simple business, and that's why a simple small business, and that's why you want to file it yourself. So if we're going to look at it in 3 steps, the first step is to do all your information related to the business, the administrative side. Who are you? What is the business? When was it incorporated? What's the tax year? Who are the directors? Step 2 is to go and put your accounting financial statements into and input it into this tax return. Okay, so that's step 2. And then step 3 is to look at the taxable side of things. Okay, so are there things that you're doing that have tax issues, like paying out dividends? What kind of dividends are you paying out? Eligible, non-eligible? Figuring out if you had charitable donations. Do you have any Schedule 1 adjustments? Again, all of these things will come out as you complete your tax return. So you would just go through this kind of like a checklist. You'll go through from 1 to the end. Once you get to the end, you will review it. Once you review your tax return, you'll have to fix all the errors. Hopefully there are none to fix. Okay, once these are fixed, you'll go into your e-file tax return. You'll be able to see it, and you would e-file it. Again, you don't need that WAC number to e-file, so don't worry too much about that. And in general, these, if you are a small business, you can totally do this. There are some things here that you need to know to have some information, do some research on what is depreciation for tax purposes, what is depreciation for accounting, what are the differences between accounting and tax, what are these Schedule 1 adjustments, okay? But for the most part, you should be able to do it on your own if you are a simple small business. If you are a holding corporation, there should be no issues with filing your tax return. If this video helped, make sure to like and subscribe for more practical Canadian tax guidance videos. Remember, this is general information, not personalized tax advice.